What's up, YouTube? In this video, we're going to take a look at Astrotracer Type 3 in the K-3 Mark III. Yes, the PENTAX K-3 Mark III does have Astrotracer, which does not require GPS whatsoever. I know a lot of my subscribers follow Snappiness. He's already done an Astrotracer video specifically about Astrotracer Type 3. At that time, I was trying to get around to using it, but every night it was cloudy or just cloudy or rainy and just really bad. It just was not going to work. So when I went out to go shoot the Aurora Borealis just over the past weekend, not just this past weekend, the weekend before, I actually did use Astrotracer Type 3 finally, and was able to get some shots, and it's surprisingly easy to use. It's really a point and shoot mode. It's quite impressive what they did. It does take a while in order to shoot the image though, because it takes a preliminary. It sounded like it was taking 2 shots. Then it figures out, where it needs to actually adjust the sensor in order to track correctly. And once it figures that out, then it takes your shot. Things I noticed is when you shoot long exposure and you have long exposure noise reduction on, it takes a ridiculous amount of time, because after your exposure is done, then it will do the dark frame subtraction right after the fact. So that's up to you if you want to leave that on or not, but it's just going to be twice as long for the camera to finally produce the image. One thing I did notice when I went into the menu, because someone had brought up, it would be nice if you could have one shot for the foreground and then another shot for the background. Hopefully they could implement that in a firmware update. I decided to actually look at the camera menu, because with the K3 Mark III, there are a bunch of different options you have, but they're all tied specifically to the mode you're in. So if you're in movie mode, you'll get different options for shooting in movie mode. If you're in live view, you get different options than if you are shooting in OVF mode. So I turned on the Astrotracer Type 3 and actually looked to see what the shutter option, the drive mode options are. And to my surprise, you can actually do interval in Astrotracer Type 3 mode. So I'm hoping that it'll be a nice enough evening with not too much light pollution. So I can actually try that out and see what happens. I've never used that combination before, but let's just get into the images here. So the first image we're going to take a look at, let me just fire this up. Give me one sec. I should have already had this open, but I didn't. My bad. All right. So on this first image, yes, you can see he's completely and utterly blurred. Yes, I know. When I actually shot this was in Astrotracer mode. So this was what was this? 2-minute exposure, I believe it was, at ISO 1600. And yeah, I mean, you can see there's a nebula right here, which one of my subscribers pointed out. It is a bit noisy. I may have overdone this one in regards to lifting the shadows. However, I mean, look at the amount of stars. The amount of stars is just insane, and like you can see the varying colors and the hue shifts. But I mean, this amount of stars is crazy, absolutely crazy. And the other thing I noticed too, I was using the 1650 PLM, and the one thing I did notice is at the very edges of the lens, you can actually see movement. So if you are using a wider angle lens, this will be an issue. But other than that, it did come out well. However, the foreground is blurred. Now, where Astrotracer Type 3 does not work is, let's go to the next image here. So this one came out well. This was a 1-minute exposure, or 1 minute to 1.5 minutes. And you can see there's a satellite here. Right there, that streak. It's terrible. But, yeah, so this worked well because there's more than enough stars in the scene to track. Now, and there's a campfire way down in the corner here. Now, where I did have an issue was with not this one, but you can see how blurred this one is here. This was, I don't even, this was a crazy exposure. I don't even remember. I don't like how this is actually showing. Let's see here. What was the exposure on that actually? Let's go to the properties. Let's find out together. It took so many shots, I don't even remember. So it was a 180-second exposure. It was long. It was a long exposure. But it did track fairly well. Again, I mean, you can see it's, yeah, okay. The focus is slightly out. But there aren't crazy streaks from the stars. There's a couple here. I'm not sure what happened. Maybe we were on a dock. It is possible, maybe, you know, walking around slightly. That could be what caused the blur. I never actually noticed that before. This one here, this one's not bad. The stars, they're a little bit off. They're a bit off. But you can clearly tell there's a big difference between the top section here and the blur of the foreground here. Now, where this actually did begin to be an issue was, let's see, which one is it? Okay, so this I shot, it was a 1-minute exposure of the Milky Way. As you can see, it's really good. But you can see that in the very, very edges, in the corners, you can see the streaks. Right. So if you are shooting a wide angle lens, like I said, you know, this will, just in the corners, this will be an issue. So my suggestion would be, you know, I was shooting at 16 millimeters. I should have zoomed in to say 35. And once I was zoomed in, then it should have actually been able to clear that up. I'm going to have to experiment a bit more with it. And again, you can see that the trees here are blurred, which is a given. So it'll be interesting to see the composite mode, to see how that may allow you to blend the two images together off of what the camera captures. So now this one here is not with Astrotracer. This was a 20-second exposure. And you can see the trees, you know, it's sharp. The trees are good. Trees are good. But again, you know, you've got some corner issues here. These are circles for the most part. Actually, just up here. All right, but then when you get back into the other corner, you can see there is a bit of streaking. Now, Astrotracer did not work when I tried it with this image. My guess is there's too much in the foreground, and it just wasn't enough data for the camera to track, right? Because if we look at that image versus which one is it? Yeah, this one. There's more stars here, and the other thing that was mentioned on Snappiness's video was, you know, just the exposure itself. Even though I was at 6400 ISO, so this should have worked, but for whatever reason, you know, it failed, and it failed again. And this one, I think it failed because of the intensity of the light from the Aurora Borealis. Because I did try to capture this one. I wanted a really nice long exposure. I could see where the columns were coming in, and I thought it would have been awesome just to get a nice blend of all the various colors, but Astrotracer failed. So I'm not sure why it failed, because it doesn't tell you what the reason is. It just says that it failed, and that's pretty much the end of the story. Now, ease of use, you basically just put the camera in bulb mode, go to Astrotracer Type 3, you just dial in however long you want the exposure to be, and you just click the shutter button or use a remote, and the camera just does it all for you. You just wait until the image shows up on the back of the screen, and it's done. It's honestly that simple. It's absolutely amazing that they were able to actually figure that out and make it happen. Yeah, I mean, like this Milky Way picture for a 1-minute exposure, yeah, I'm blown away. It's absolutely amazing. Yeah, it's I'm hooked. I am hooked. It is so easy. If you don't have the OGPS2 unit, this is the best alternative there is, and it works very, very, very well. So there you have it. Astrotracer Type 3 works remarkably well. I am going to be checking it out in regards to doing the interval shooting. You can dial in how many shots you want it to take and what the interval is in between each shot, and leave it in Astrotracer mode, Astrotracer Type 3 mode. Remember, there's 3 different modes. So leave it in Astrotracer Type 3 mode and just let the camera do its thing. It'll be interesting to see what the results are, and once I get around to being able to do that, I will let you guys know my findings. Again, that's going to be it for this video. Thank you for taking the time to watch it. I hope you enjoyed the images. It was a remarkable evening that I had that night. If you haven't seen the other video that I did. Anyway, if you want to support the channel, I'll leave that info at the bottom of the description. If you have any questions or comments, leave them down below. And that's it. You'll see me on my next video. I'm out.